Hello everyone, in this video let us start using Insight, which is an asset management add-on for Jira. Now in every company, in every organization, people use different assets, and assets could be a physical computer, it could be a mobile phone, it could be the keyboard or the mouse. Assets can be physical, assets can be virtual. For example, if we talk about servers, if we talk about virtual machines, if we talk about, let us say, the software and the licenses, these are all assets. And each and every company, they have, of course, their own software. And of course, when I say own software, I mean that there are standard softwares in the industry for doing asset management, because it is quite important to track those assets for the organization. And when we talk about asset management, where we track the assets, where we also need to make sure, let us say, who is currently using that particular asset, and if, let us say, there is a problem with any of those assets, then these things need to be tracked, and there is a tool that is required. Now, the good news is that you can also do asset management in Jira, but not natively. You need an add-on or an app. And one of the most popular and useful app for doing asset management in Jira is called Insight. So in this video, I want to introduce Insight, which is an asset management solution that comes as an app or an add-on that you can install on your instance of Jira. And we'll talk about what Insight can do, and we'll also take a look at how it works in our Jira instance. So we'll install Insight, and we'll also do some initial configurations, and we'll take a look. We'll try to use the Insight add-on very quickly today in this video. So before that, I just want to spend some time on the marketplace listing. It is very important to also take a look at what vendor has to say about this add-on. So first of all, this add-on is developed by a company called Riada, and just for your information, Insight is available on server, data center, and also on cloud. So when we talk about the add-on that works on cloud, and of course the server version of the same add-on, there are usually some differences of the features, but in this video we'll be taking a look at the server version of Insight. And usually when you talk about the server version of the add-on, it has quite a lot of features if you compare it with the cloud version. So talking about the marketplace listing, if you do a quick look of different banners, so first of all, they're talking about view object graph. And this may seem a bit complicated right now, but we'll also take a look at what exactly they mean by this view object graph. So basically, they are trying to say that when you have different assets, those assets are usually linked to each other. And let me give you a very simple example. If you talk about a physical machine, a server, now that server can have maybe few services using it. For example, maybe a database, or maybe some Apache is using the same host or same machine, and that machine also it may also have some software installed, and you need to also keep track of the licenses. And when you talk about those licenses, you have some expiry dates, and all those services that are using that particular machine may also have some owner, and that owner can also be taking care of some other assets. So when you have assets, and these assets are used in any organization, usually there is a link, there is some connection between these assets, and it is always handy to have this visual representation of this connection, this interlinking, or the network of those assets. Now, and of course, when you talk about Insight, it can basically create this graph so that you can track, and you can basically figure out these dependencies or these links between different assets. And also, they're talking about if the asset is used maybe by a customer or maybe internal users, and if let us say people are reporting that, let us say, a service or a server is down, you can immediately figure out the machine or the connected services that might get affected. So we'll not get into the details or the complexities of asset management in this video. I just want to quickly go through the initial setup and how it looks like. So if you talk about viewing the asset, for example, if you're talking about a specific machine or a laptop, the way you would view the details is something similar to your Jira issue. So when you have a Jira issue, let us say a story or a bug or maybe a task, you have the name of the issue and of course you have other details. Similarly, when you are taking a look at an asset, it could be a laptop, it could be a license key or a server. It has a similar view where you have not just the name but also some other details, and you can have these details stored as different fields in your asset as well. So it works quite similar to your Jira issues. And also you have some capabilities of importing your information, your existing assets into Insight in case you are trying to use Insight for the very first time and you already have some asset management solution. You can do an import, which is always handy. And we also have a lot of reporting capabilities in the tool. Or at the same time, if you have some services using those assets, and when people report incidents or Jira issues that are linked to those assets, so yes, it is also possible to link those assets to the actual Jira issues. So you can also have some reporting based on number of issues getting raised on a particular asset. So we'll of course discuss these things in future videos, and in this video I want to focus on the introduction, and I will quickly jump to my Jira instance where I will go to my add-on section. So you need to have Jira admin rights to install a new add-on, but I have already installed the add-on and I have also applied an evaluation license. So once you install the add-on, once you have the license, then you're ready to use that particular add-on or an app. I should be using the word app because app is the new word for modules or plugins or add-ons. But when you say app is nothing but an add-on. So yeah, so when you have this app installed, you can see here that we have a listing called Insight. And right now it will tell us about the license, which is currently valid because I'm using a evaluation version of this app. And on the left hand side, you can see some configuration options like Insight configuration, indexing Insight, Insight script console, which is something similar to, I believe, Script Runner, Insight report, and Riada analytics. But in this video, we want to focus on using it very quickly. And this is something really important when you have a new tool or a new software or maybe a new app or an add-on in Jira. I personally like using those add-ons that are easy to use and that are really intuitive. So if you click on Insight menu on top, you have few options like search for objects, Insight object schema, configure, and getting started. So let us click on getting started and let us see what Insight is asking us to do. Probably they will give us some suggestions on maybe the documentation. So there is a link that will take you to the documentation. There is a video, and they have given nice information about various steps that you can do in the very beginning. Like the first thing that you will do is create an object schema. Then you create object types. Then you create or import objects, and then you link those objects to your Jira issues. So we'll discuss in a moment what is the difference between object schema and object types. I think I can probably tell you very briefly right now. So object schema is something similar to your project in Jira. And when you talk about object types, they are something similar to your issue types. Now object types can be different type of assets. But object schema is really important because let us say you are trying to use Insight for doing asset management for your hardware. but at the same time, you also want to use Insight for employee management. So these are your object schemas, and they are like big container or like a Jira project. But object types are nothing but different type of objects that you want to track. For example, your laptop, your keyboard, your mouse, your physical machine, your virtual machine, your license, or different services that are using those those machines or those hardwares. These are object types, and you can define these object types in your object schema. And when you create, let us say, a specific type of laptop. Now, when you have, let us say, a laptop, your laptop could be a Windows machine or a Mac machine, or it could be a Linux-based machine. Then you will have different fields, maybe a field which is specific to Mac laptop, a field which is specific to Windows, and so on. So the way it works is something similar to your project, but you have this ability to create maybe some kind of hierarchy where you have maybe starting with the object schema, then you have your laptop. Under laptops, you can have Mac, Windows, Linux, and so on. So you have this ability to create these hierarchies, and it will really help you in tracking the type of asset easily and properly. Now, talking about linking Jira issues to Insight objects, this is something that you can do later on when you have your asset management database ready. You can start creating maybe a custom field that you can link to your Jira issues. So we'll probably figure out how to do it later on. But let us start using Insight. And the first thing that we need to do is we need to create object schema. So let us create one object schema. And the moment I click on the object schema, it is asking us to select either Insight reports or ITSM project template. So what I will probably do, I think these are some templates that we can potentially use, but I'll probably close this and I'll use this option here called create an object schema. Now, when I click on this button or a link, I have an option to create empty object schema, which I don't really want to do in this video. I want something with some template so I can start using Insight immediately. So we have some templates like IT asset schema, sample HR schema, and also create sample CRM schema. So in this video, let us create a sample IT asset schema, and most likely this can be used with our ITSM based projects where we can have a Jira service test project raising tickets for different type of assets. So let us click on the next button, and I'll probably add maybe some name like IT schema, and we have a recommendation for the key, which is good. It is something similar to your projects in Jira. And the moment you create your object schema, I can see here that there is a listing called IT schema. And if I click on it, I can already see that we have some information on the left hand side. So these are different objects that we have available for our project. We can start using them immediately. So we have something called as network assets. So network assets are usually your host or connected devices, or maybe you can click on asset details. So we have something called as scanning information, network interface, operating system, CPU, file system, license, database, application, and so on. So we'll figure out how these things work, and maybe I just want to create a new schema so that I can compare how it looks like. So if I click on the create object button on top, I have the option to select the type of schema. So something similar to your Jira issue, Jira create issue screen. So I may want to create, let us say, my operating system. So I can enter the name like maybe CentOS. And then I can select my manufacturer. The version is, let us say, 7, or maybe the build number, kernel. So these fields are, I believe, different for a different type of object types. If I select maybe a database, I guess my database details or the fields will be different. Like for example, Oracle, and I can select my host name. Right now we don't really have any host name because we have not really filled in or created any asset for host. So this is how you will have a linking between different type of objects. So let me just create maybe Oracle 12, and I'll probably create a host. And when I click on the host, I have of course the, the set of fields that I can fill in. Let us say I can have something like host A. I can have a status. So this is really good because we need to know if the host is running or not. And we can have host name. We can have a fully qualified domain name. I believe we can probably store our IP address somewhere, maybe the host name, or maybe we can create a field. We can have a serial number. We can have the vendor. Is it a virtual or a physical machine? And we also have some other fields like the operating system. So if you remember, we just created a CentOS object. Now we can link it. Right now we don't have any CPU or network interface, so we can just leave it as leave them blank. And I'll probably create maybe one more object. Maybe this time I will create a license, because we need a license, and I'll probably, CentOS is free, but I'll probably have something like Red Hat or maybe Windows. So it is really up to you how you want to do it. You can store your license key, then you can specify the host name. So host A is, we know that it is a CentOS, so we'll not really select it, but you can have a Windows host. So this is how you will have the linking between different type of objects. But I'll probably change it to maybe CentOS so that we can see the dependencies and linking between each other. And for license, we also have the end date. And we have the capability of tracking the end date. Let us say if the license is about to expire in maybe 2 months or maybe in 1 month, we can probably get some notifications. And the moment you create your objects, you can see some numbers here, like we have one host. You can see the details of the host here. And let me spend some time here. So this view looks quite similar to your Jira issue view, and not really Jira issue view, but this is something similar to your issue navigator detailed view. And on the left hand side, you have different hosts. I can probably create maybe one more host very quickly, host B. I'll change the status to maybe active. Not change, but I'll add the status to active. I'll select maybe operating system as CentOS, maybe something else. No, I think that is fine. So we have two hosts here. I'll probably refresh it. So this is quite similar to your Jira issue navigator. So we have two hosts. We can switch between them. And when you look at, let us say, a specific host, you have, of course, the information about the host name, the status, and on the right hand side, you can see the attachments. You have a panel called Connected Jira Issues, and you can see here that if there is a Jira issue which is probably raised, where people are complaining about, let us say, the host is down, or maybe the service which is running on this host A is down. Let us say you have Oracle running on your host A, then when people complain about that Oracle server is down, you can immediately see here that there might be some connected Jira issues. So this is really helpful information, which we will of course see, and we'll take a look at in later videos, like how to do this linking. And we also have the QR code. And the last thing which I want to, which I will probably show you, is the ability to also take a look at the graph, because we want to see how these services are linked to each other. So you can see here that there is a nice graph, and this graph is quite interactive. You can click on these objects. For example, if you click on operating system, on the right hand side, you have some information about how many objects are there for this operating system object type, which is quite useful. If you click on host, we have two hosts for the host type of object, and so on. So this is all I wanted to share in this video. I wanted to do a quick introduction of Insight, which is a really good add-on for asset management, and there are a lot of capabilities with Insight, you can also do a discovery, because when you have a lot of assets in the company, you can of course do an initial import, but later on you may want to have some capability of scanning, so that when you have a new asset added to your network, maybe you want those new assets to be discovered, and you want to see them in your asset management database. So this is actually possible with the help of the discovery add-on, which is a bit separate from the module that we just installed. Right now we just focused on Insight, that will give you the capability of having a nice schema, and you can still use Insight in case you want to import and manage your assets manually, or maybe you want to connect them, or maybe import them on a regular basis. But there is also a possibility of doing scanning of your network. So we'll definitely cover those things in future videos, and I hope you learned and you enjoyed watching this video. Thank you very much.